Welcome. This is the Simply King podcast, and this is your boy Rodney Perry, King himself, and you just tuned into the Soulfully Conscious podcast for humans simply being humans. And today is yet again a special one. I have here with me, and it's a topic that has been a lot for me. You know, if you look back in all of the podcast episodes I've had, I don't think I've had too many episodes relating really directly to social media. Because I've always had, my own insecurities of like, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. I'm trying to find my way. I'm feeling all these ways about it, but I'm glad I'm finally over it. And I think the universe is trying to affirm that I'm over it by allowing me to talk to people who are great at it, who are masterful at the idea, the whole technical aspect and creative aspect of social media. I have here with me longtime social media strategist, all around dope ass content creator, writer, and so many other things. I have here with me Jayde Powell. How you feeling?
Hi. I'm good. Thank you for having me. And thank you for that introduction. That was so warming.
Thank you. I've been trying to work on those things over the years, but I'm glad. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm good. I'm honestly riding off of a high from yesterday. My teammate and I got some good news about our brand, so I'm just like feeling good. Today's a sunny day too. I'm happy.
I feel like I've seen that. At least seen you post something, and with more about that later. But before we get too deep onto who you are as Jayde, I want to make sure we get into this Twitter check-in, right? So here we go. All right. So, today's Twitter check-in is dedicated to a now present-day historical figure, Ketanji Brown Jackson, the current Supreme Court Justice nominee. And I'm assuming that by this time, I'm not sure what this process, the process, they treat it differently depending on who in the seat. Because I remember the last person, it felt like it was 2 days of confirmation. She was already in that thing. It was like minimal questioning. She got the job. You know what I'm saying? Who knew that it could be so few of rounds to get a job? Well, I feel like Ketanji been in the pit of fire and flames for all week. But she's been certainly all over Twitter, and I feel like it's been so many conversations to happen from just her and just this reviewing of her record. How did you feel when you learned that Joe Byron nominated a black woman to be the new justice of the Supreme Court?
I think my first initial thought was as he should. Why not? But also just wow, and how incredible, how historic. I think this nominee kind of represents like another stepping stone in Black history, which I am incredibly excited about. For me, I know we talk about like Black History Month is being celebrated for February, but it's honestly a year-long celebration. And I think this is very much evident of that Black history continues and moves beyond February. And I'm just like so happy to see her shining and amongst like all this, I guess, conversation and the intense questions that she's being asked as she gets through this process. I'm just really proud of her, and I feel honored to be represented by her as a Black woman. It's incredible.
I feel the same. I feel so much felt so much joy that her name is Ketanji Brown Jackson. Quite ironic to find a white man named Jackson too. I love that. Shit. In case you was wondering, but also I think for me it was her aesthetic too. I think her having natural hair and really did something for me and my inner child and my just overall just what I know I've had to deal with in terms of corporate America and the workforce. It's something that really touched me to see that there's gonna be someone who is at the highest level of the judicial system and look similar to me, you know? And that's beautiful, you know? And regardless of, because I feel like I didn't want to spoil the energy by, you know, going too deep into particular ideals and views, because out of anything, and what I think she was a great example for throughout this confirmation, was that regardless of whatever she is, whoever she is, however she thinks, whatever her ideas are, those things shouldn't matter in how she judges. Because like, she's not a politician. She should be right down the center, just straight for the facts. This is what it is. And I think we don't live in a world where it seems like they care about that. It's like, no, are you going to do what we want you to do more than anything? And so many of the questions for her was so crazy to me. And I love how she handled it. It's unfortunate she had to keep handling things in that way, but it's like, y'all, it ain't my job to define these things. It ain't my job to do that. That's not on me. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm just going to judge you. Will you judge? Can you judge this fairly? Yes. I'm not, it don't matter what I think. It don't matter who I am.
Yeah.
I just know how to do it, you know? And I think that's a beautiful thing, you know? But no, let us pivot and get into you. Now, tell me, you are from Atlanta, Georgia, right? But I know you told me that you got, you know, roots in New York. How did your family end up in Atlanta?
So my parents are actually from Jamaica, and yes, the island. And ironically enough, they both migrated to New York and then both moved to Jamaica, Queens. So they literally just went from the island to the city of Jamaica in New York.
That's hilarious.
Funny to me. But, you know, our people be out there. So that's where they met. And then my older sister and my older brother, they were born in New York. And then I guess my parents kind of realized, like, hey, we're going to be growing this family. We want to leave New York. So they came down south and then had me and my little brother. So half of us are New York apples, half of us are Georgia peaches. And
I like that. That's so cute. Y'all need to put that on T-shirts.
Yeah. So I was born in Atlanta, grew up in the burbs, like outside of the city in Snellville, Stone Mountain area. And then relocated back into the city a couple of years ago. So now that I'm just like in my adulthood, I'm like living my best life in East Atlanta, and I love it.
I love it. And your apartment is so nicely decorated. You know what I'm saying? I always am shading people. I get why so many people move to Atlanta for so many different reasons. And living in Atlanta, I felt like I lived in Atlanta when I feel like the wave was already happening. People were already moving, but it seemed like it got even greater after I left. But the apartments, though, like I don't know if people really be knowing, like apartments in Atlanta are like top tier to me, just in terms of just the way that they look. Like when you think about having your first apartment or just a great apartment because you got the big boy and big girl and big person job, you think this is what this looks like. I got good windows. I got great lighting. I can buy things from Crate and Barrel, you know. You can get it going, you know. And I think people think Atlanta, you know. I think people think Atlanta because when you go to older cities like Chicago, for instance, I think people's bubble get bursted real quickly when they realize they got that big ass, you know what I'm saying, radiator at the side of the thing blocking most of their space, their square footage. And same in New York, too. Like,
yeah, I actually just had that experience when I went up to New York a couple of weeks ago. I was like in my Airbnb and I was like, I remember I messaged the host and I was like, how do I turn on the heat? And they were like, oh, we control the heat. I was like, where'd I do that at? I was like, oh, no. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was literally looking for a remote to like just click it on and then I was like, here.
And that feels so tyrannical to me. Like, it's cold here. Like, I should have control over the heat. Like, at least that. You know what I'm saying? No, people literally just got to open a window, got to put a fan on, try to circulate something. And it's so odd to me, but that's my southernness. Like, I feel like it's certain advantages that all sides of the nation have. But that's one thing that I can say for sure. The South has just figured out. Central air and heat. Everybody get it. Everybody gets central air and heat. Why not? Like,
it's hot as hell down here, so I would hope so.
Like, but not only just because it's getting hot as hell. In my mind, it's like people finicky. You know, people want it cold. People want it hot. People want it whatever. Just let them control the thing. You know what I'm saying? Just because we don't want to deal with it. Just make it make sense. Put the HVAC in there and give people remotes, give people knots, give people a little box, whatever they need. So in terms of your journey into social media, tell me, what was the first social media account that you remember making?
Oh, wow. This was in high school. I had a baking business that I was like literally smuggling cupcakes into my high school and selling them to my classmates.
Come on, hustler!
I know. I was
got the cakes.
It was like totally not allowed, but some of my teachers let me get away with it. So shout out to them for, investing in my future.
Hell yeah.
I had a baking business called Whisk, and
ooh,
I know.
You are so good at this. Oh my God, Jay, that sounds like something. Like you are on your minimalism early.
The one name, brand name. And yeah, I was like doing all the marketing myself, of course, because it was mine. Like I remember I literally hand drew my logo with like markers and like scanned it into my computer to like have a digital version of it. But I started a Facebook page because that's what was popping at the time, Facebook and MySpace. But Facebook had just like started letting users do business pages, and that's how I got all my updates to my classmates. Like, this week I'm gonna have strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla. Come get your cupcakes. And they would just send me messages to put in their orders, and I would just like manually like write them down. And Facebook was like huge for me as just like an early budding entrepreneur. It was like everything to me. So that was my first Facebook page, first social media account that I've ever managed.
I want everybody listening to and watching to hear this. Her first page was an entrepreneurial effort. It was a marketing tool for her. First. I wish I could say I was about business on my first account for anything, because I definitely had on MySpace. I was definitely in middle school, and I was mannish as hell. Like, I remember I had a song that was way inappropriate. Had letters, had playlists, had top 8s, had all the things. I was on there trying to talk to young girls my age, and I was just like, ugh. I was just social, just trying to be social.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was there for.
Oh yeah. But I love that your first, like the one that you can remember first was, you know what I'm saying? Make a little bread with your, with them cupcakes.
I was about my coin, always have been, always will be.
Yeah, I ain't mad at it. That might be the Jamaican in you too. That makes sense. Got 14 jobs. I feel you. I love that. That's hella work ethic, though. I believe that's beautiful. And the reason why I thought of that question is because I think we are a specific generation of kind of just, the post-analog, very early digital era. And I always got to correct, Gen Xers or, boomers about who the hell millennials really are. Because I think they kind of mix us in with Generation Z all the time. Like, y'all don't even know what a cassette plate is. Y'all don't even know what a CD is. I'm like, how old do y'all think we are? Like, I get if we were born in the 90s. Yeah. I get if people were born in the late 80s. But we had sense. We were like, it don't take that long. It don't take a few years to start remembering things and never going away. And also, everybody didn't have the newest of new things. Like, I vividly remember my mama having tapes and an Oldsmobile and you remember the thing they had to get people had to go and get the new little radio sets to get put on there just so they could have a CD player. All that. I remember you had to take the damn CD player key off.
Like, even when you had like the cassettes and you had to like wind it up with a pencil, like, it's not that far behind.
It's not that far behind. And like, And I knew people even in high school who had cars where that was the way that they could play music with the tape, yes, with the thing, and it connect to their phone. So it's always got to correct them on like, y'all probably were just maybe because y'all were older enough, y'all were so detached into y'all adulthood that y'all think all these people were children and they no way for them to remember. But it's like we talking about me being like 10. We talking about me being like 11. Yes, I know what that is. Like you probably ain't never heard of this. You probably never heard of this movie. It was a powerful movie back in the day called Boys in the Hood. And I'm like, oh, no. Like, got you. Certainly seen it. Definitely. But I feel like that's a key point in like why I think we operate the way we do on social media. I think our age group is one that is all the things at once, like being the leaders in content creation, but also just being model spectators, just being model users as well. Like not really caring, like the people who care to be on these particular platforms and create content really care. And the people who just want to spectate, it's like, just make my experience easy for that. Like, I just want to be able to see what I want to see. But I would love to know, like, what was it about? Was there another sign or symbol or inspiration that kind of led you down the path to see and know, like, yeah, this is the industry that I want to get a part of?
Well, I would say I kind of fell into marketing and advertising by chance. And when I was managing that Facebook page for my baking business in high school, I didn't know that I could make a career out of social media marketing because it wasn't a thing then. Like that just wasn't happening at that time.
That's a good point.
And it wasn't until I got to college, I remember it was really pretty much the student organizations I was a part of. Like in order to connect to other students, we needed to be on social media. And I always ended up in these like roles where I was like, yeah, I'll manage the Facebook page. Yeah, I'll manage the Instagram. Yeah, I'll manage the Twitter account. And I remember specifically one of the organizations that I was in, it was the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization. And I was running for their VP of, I think, public relations position. Because even at that time, like public relations, comms, marketing, it was like all the same thing. So I remember I was running for that position, and this man named Sean Stanberry, shout out to him if he's listening, he approached me after I kind of made my presentation, and he was like, hey, I'm running a social media agency and we have an internship open. You should apply. And I just kind of looked at him a little side-eyed because I was like, first of all, you're my age. What do you mean you're running a social media agency?
Right.
Like, what does that mean?
Right.
And I didn't take it seriously at first. And then I remember he like really pressed on me. He emailed me again a couple of times and was like, Jayde, like you need to apply. And I was like, okay, fine. And I applied, got the internship. And that was really like the beginning of my social media career, because once I like started my first day, I was like, oh, wow, like businesses are actually paying people to manage their social media accounts. And that's how I kind of fell into the world of social media marketing, but also the marketing advertising industry as a whole. And from then it just kind of went from there. I was just taking on all these like gigs as like doing social media work and also doing marketing internships until I, graduated college and got into my career. And then I haven't really looked back since.
I love that you stuck with what felt like it was working too. But what was the thing that you enjoyed about social media? What was it that made it feel like something that you can continuously do?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, I just had like a natural talent for it, which was surprising to me. Honestly, I remember like Facebook consumed a lot of my work because that was the platform that was most popular at that time. And I remember when I did start working at that agency, they were like, yeah, Jayde, like a lot of our clients want Twitter. And I was like, well, I don't even like, what is Twitter? Like, I don't tweet. So they literally had to like train me on how to use Twitter, and I didn't really know what I was doing until I was just like thrown into it. And then I think when I realized like how natural it came to me, like creating even at that time, like we didn't call it content creators, but like thinking of content to create for these brands and thinking of like what funny tweets or tweets that can like, get people get their customers back to their website. And the creative aspect of like designing graphics, which was like a lot of my work too. I was like, wow, this is fun. fun and I really enjoy this. So I think that creative aspect was what really appealed to me at the time.
I love that. I love that so much because I feel like it's always something that draws us to the thing that we do so much and we've done so much.
And one thing I will say too, because a lot of our work was community management heavy as well. Mm-hmm. I literally love talking to people on the internet.
Got you. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I can like just DM someone or tweet them and they'll respond. Like it was genuinely fun for me. So all that coupled with the creative work was amazing.
Yeah. And I think that's a gratifying thing that I don't think people really understand until you are put into that position, like getting responses, people being responsive to you. It's in a general sense. I think everybody would like to say something or put something out and get a response, which I think is the base level of why people post things and publish things, like, it's starting conversation or it's getting people to say things back to us. It's a real bare minimum thing of communication. How is it communication if no one ever really says anything back? But I know, to me, I feel like I've had a beef with social media because I think early on, I think I had this very innocent joy. As I said, like I was on MySpace just being mannish, you know what I'm saying? Being a middle schooler on MySpace, trying to edit my page and do all these different things, and then got into like editing my
HTML in the back.
I did it all. I used to do it for other people.
Yes.
And then I got into like making profile photos for people, heavy graphics. I'm talking about I was burning out, oversaturating everybody's face, and that was the vibe though, y'all. Being like making people look all preppery and all that was what was the highly requested thing. And then throughout college, I went to CAU and I literally started to get into social media in terms of an aspect of like marketing to just promote my events, to promote things I was doing. And it made me, because I always needed flyers and because I was always doing so much, it was like, damn, I got to learn how to make a flyer now because I can, like the people who usually do this for me aren't always available and I need to promote this event like now. So that was kind of what got me into it. And then graduating and then starting my podcast, I think it was the first time I seriously was like, okay, now I'm using social media for something I really want people to care about. And I think that timing of doing that was the weirdest of timing because the algorithm started to shift. We were just getting out of chronological and all these various things. So I felt like I was truly, and I remember I can't remember what year it was. It might have been like 2015 or 2017. I can't remember what year it was, but it was like Instagram. It was the first time they swept all the bots. I don't know if you remember that. But I feel like I was like around, I can't remember how many followers I had, but I remember I had a good amount. I feel like I probably passed it however long ago, but whenever that was, it was a great amount. And I swear I lost like maybe like 1,500 people and I was devastated. I was like, whoa, hold on. What's happening? This is terrible. We all were going through it, but I felt like I got hit. And then, trying my best to kind of like get back into all the things, like getting back on Twitter, because I definitely let that go. Created a Twitter, start of college, and probably barely used it for those 4 years, and was getting into all the things. And then over the past 6 years have had this up and down energy of like, social media is something that I really only like every blue moon. Like it feels like it only gives me what I expect every blue moon. And I'm like, damn, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I know that so many people feel the same way because nowadays it's a whole industry in itself, being a social media coach and just teaching people how to market themselves better online and just people getting tips, people feeling like they got the hacks and got the da-da-da. And I've gotten to a really good place with it now because now I just create based off what I want to do. I just want to put out whatever the hell I want to put out. And I can't put too much pressure on myself. The algorithm is going to algorithm. I can't, like, what else can I do? And also, I've gotten so much validation from people who do social media well. So it's like, I'm not doing nothing wrong. And I don't know how to be different in the situation, you know? But I guess it's for everyone who's listening what would you say to the people who are in those like those early phases of social media, trying to figure those things out? Because I think a lot of people can run into those particular frustrations and feel like they are being consistent. They're posting every day. They feel like their content is, a quality content. And they're sticking to their niche. What would you have to say to them in terms of like just being able to stay motivated to keep doing the thing, keep marketing themselves or whatever their product or business is online?
I would say two things. One, testing and learning is going to be your everything, because social media just changes every single day. Yeah. And what may be working right now may not be working 2 days from now. And that's very much okay. It's just the nature of the game. Yeah. So the best thing you can do is just like do what feels natural to you and lean into that. And then just pay attention to what your audience is saying. If they're like, we want more lifestyle content from you, maybe test some lifestyle content and see what that looks like for you. If they're like, we want more, recommendations for playlists, like give them the playlist. I think like there's always a middle ground between the content that you really want to create and then what your audience wants to see. And that's where you need to kind of play in that space. And then also keep your mental health top of mind. That's something that has been incredibly important for me these past couple of years. I think because of the pressure to perform on social media in whatever sense that you look at it in, whether it's like perform, meaning like putting your actual like face on social media, or in terms of like, the numbers, how many followers you have, how many shares you're getting, it can get you a little caught up, especially if you're comparing yourselves to others. Because I've been in that space on the brand side where I'm like looking at other brands and I'm like, shit, like we're not growing as fast as them. Or I've been on it on the content creator side where like I am the brand and I'm just like, oh, these other influencers or these other creators, they're getting all these like brand deals and I'm not getting mine as fast as I am. And I consciously have to like remind myself that like I'm on own path in my own journey, and everything that is destined for me is going to be for me. And so in the process, all I can do is, do what feels authentic to me and then make sure I'm taking care of my mental health in the process. So sometimes that means like, stepping away from my phone for an hour to like go clean or go outside. But like, it's just not healthy to constantly be, refreshing your feed every 5 seconds, because that does nothing for your spirit.
It doesn't. And like, if I can, bestow anything on anybody in terms of this, what truly helped me get over that hump and get over my own indifference was making sure that I was happy with what I was doing. Like, I got to be good with this. Like, I got to like this. This really brought me joy to make and to finish and to see the final product. And if this wasn't me, I would press like on this. I would share this with somebody else. Absolutely. And if I don't feel those ways about what I'm creating, then I'll know that I'm either forcing it or I'm not, or I'm trying to just phone it in just because I need to fulfill whatever, requirement I've made for myself in relation to this particular platform. Yeah. And so for me, once I started to do that, I feel like I started to make content that made me feel good. And I'm so glad I did it, like it feels good. And I'm now, and to me, I think it creates pathways for ideas in your imagination to create ways of consistency. Like in saying what I just said, I just thought about like, damn, I remember thinking of that feeling. I've done like maybe 2 to 3 pieces of content at this point now that are like similar, that gave me that particular feeling. And they all are kind of similar, like they kind of like use music to like give a message or whatever. And then I'm a multifaceted person, so I like to do a lot of different things, but it's like the overall theme is what the overall theme is. And so I think knowing that you stand true to what your thing is, you got to make you your niche is what I feel like it is, and people got to start molding into you.
Yeah, that's a bar right there.
Oh, yeah, I realized that when it came to social media, all the people that because I felt like I started studying it to a degree that was unhealthy, and I think my frustration was coming by way of telling people things I learned, them doing the things, and it working for them. And I'm like, how are you doing this thing I stopped doing?
No, absolutely.
Because just like you said, testing and trial and error, I stopped doing it. You start doing it the next day, and you start getting results immediately. So I've come to the conclusion, and it could be just my own irrational way of kind of being okay with all these things and just seeing it as what it is. Even when it comes to social media content, coaches and things, I think that because I follow so many different people. So I've heard them all say different things, contradictory things too. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, so I see what it is. This is what it is, y'all. Social media and all the people who are on social media, we're all just different zodiac signs, We're all different zodiac signs. And the people who are the leaders in these things telling you, like, this is what works for you, this is what works for you, just like with a horoscope. They're giving you compliments and telling you what you may need to adjust, may need to be mindful of. It's the same way. And so if you try it and it doesn't work, well, you're just not an Aries, baby. That's all it is.
Fine.
It's not your season. It's not your time. But if you are Aries and you do all these things and you do all these tips and tricks and it works for you, there it is. Now this is your model. This is your way to go. Because I had to start thinking of it that way, because I'm like, how is it? Because you don't need much to validate that your strategy works. Mm-hmm. If I start promoting start promoting a particular course or a class or a particular skill that I can teach people to do that I know how to do very well, all I need is maybe 10, 20 people to say, yeah, he helped me. It worked for me. For it to be like, well, this must be some validity to this. Right. You don't need much. So you don't need, it's just, what's dope about it is because they're saying they're promoting what they're promoting, it'll bring even more attention, because it's like, yeah, let me just try it. They might only have a 20% success rate and all this stuff. We don't know the real numbers, but it doesn't matter. Because they're Aries, they're Geminis, they're Scorpios.
Their own thing.
Talking to other people where it works for them. This is what, if you are in this particular niche, if you do this particular thing, if the algorithm reads you and your personality in this particular way, and the content in a particular way, and it boosts up, it boosts down, whatever it is, that's your thing. So yeah. You just got to find your right sign and get with your peoples. You know what I'm saying?
But I think what you're saying essentially is like, finding your community. And it's like finding your people that align with your values, that share the same interests as you, or like literally just want to show up for you because they love you. Like, that's the space that you want to play in, and then grow from there. Because there's a lot of overlap in all of these different communities. Like, your Aries people will have Pisces friends. I'm the Pisces friend, and there will be overlap there. So I think like you were saying, it's just a matter of like, being authentically you and doing the work that brings you joy. Because even going back to that, I think there's a lot of beauty in the creative process, especially for me. I don't know if it's the same for you. For me, being creative is incredibly healing. Like it genuinely brings me joy. So for me, it's like, even if I create this like reel or TikTok that I think is like the most like fire shit in the world and like no one likes it, I'm okay with that, because I had so much fun during the process of creating it, and like it literally brightened my day to make this piece of content. Yeah. So that's something like I'm very much okay with going to bed at night knowing that like even if it didn't, quote unquote perform, I did what I needed to do, which was be creative.
and that really be it. And I think, social media isn't the beginning or end of what makes your brand, your product, who you are into a thing. Because I know for me, it caused so much emotional turmoil. And I truly agree with you on your note to prioritize your mental health, because this ain't real life, y'all. Like, it ain't. Like, what you do and what happens for you is real life. Like, if you don't get down on yourself because it's like, damn, I did not take enough pictures on my vacation, it's like, okay, that's all right, baby. Did you have a good time? Fuck that vlog. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Just if anything, give people a rundown on how much a good time you had. Make it into something else. Possibly make that the content piece. Like, hey, I forgot to take so many pictures and do all these things and share it with you guys. But you know what? It felt good to be present. It felt good to not really bring work, because that still can be seen as work for a lot of people, which it is. into their time of relaxation and rest. You know what I'm saying? Or just fun and merrymaking. You feel me? If I'm at the all inclusive getting slizzy off of the pina coladas, I'm not thinking about hey take this picture. You know, I'm not thinking about that. I'm gonna after a while that phone. We gonna get one good picture that first day, and it might be done after that. But
honestly, that's something like I wouldn't say I struggle with, but it's something I'm being more aware of, trying to be present when I travel, because ironically enough, travel content is a lot of what my community looks to me for, especially on Instagram.
You be giving them vibes too. You be in them destinations, girl. You be in them destinations. Yes.
I mean, and it really is fun to me, like creating while I'm like out in the world, which I love. But I'm also like, you know, I try to set boundaries with myself. Like, okay, Jade, if you know you're going to be creating throughout the day, let's at least like, you know, take a couple of shots, get a couple of videos, and then wrap it up so you can like enjoy the lunch by the beach.
Yeah.
Because I still want to be present and still be able to like see, like, you know, not through a lens, what is around me. And I think that's incredibly important. So I think like even just going back to, you know, establishing boundaries and making sure that you're taking care of your mental health, like that's all a part of it. Like just making sure that you're doing the things that bring you joy, but also not distracting yourself too much in the process.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think I admire people who have figured it out, because it feels like, I think the thing that I always notice is the level of freedom that it feels like when you're not worried about if you have a quote unquote number of following or particular numbers, then you kind of in the breeze. You kind of, now it's just about, you know, creating what you want to create, and like, if anything, meeting the commitments that you made, you know, if that's the partnerships that you're trying to garner and or the ones that you already have, and trying to continuously build those and pushing yourself to create even better. It always felt like once you get over this quote unquote requirement or hurdle or competency of like building, growing, and galvanizing people to follow you, I think that's what I always was kind of seeking for. More than just the numbers itself being this gratifying dopamine effect. It was more so for me, it's like, no, it seems like the podcast and the different influencers that I followed, I'm like, it just seemed like they do what they want though. like it just seemed like they post when they want to. It seemed like they're making what they want, and fuck around and end up making a trend out of those things. You know, them doing it on an occasional basis, they now are the person who is responsible for doing this thing and doing that thing, or popularizing this thing. And I think all those things is what I've always admired more than anything. And I think probably something that a lot of people see and admire too. But I do want to pivot and speak to how, because social media wasn't just something that you did well from a casual sense, but it's also it was your occupation for so long, your official occupation for so long. And recently you somewhat, I would say, outgrew this particular aspect, and you wrote about it and you expressed it online, that you basically are leaving this particular world in the capacity of this corporate space, I'm assuming, and truly want to dedicate more to you, more to yourself. Am I right on that kind of overview? Yeah,
spot on.
Yeah. But tell us more about like what drove you to the point to where you're like, you've been doing social media for, a decade and some change, and doing it well for multiple different people, and you're doing it well from a corporate standpoint, but also personally, but yet, you felt like it was something that you need to part ways from. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just a long journey for me. I think one of the things I think about even today is that, and not to make myself sound like I'm this like veteran, but I guess
you look.
But I kind of am.
How many years? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got your 10,000 hours a good minute ago,
Yes.
Just saying.
But when I started in this work, it was a genuine joy because it was like new. And I think one of the beautiful things that I got to be a part of, especially earlier on in my career, was that I worked with a lot of small businesses and small entrepreneurs that I empathize with, because I was telling you, like, my path was always entrepreneurship, like when I started my baking business in high school. So for me, it was just like when they would send us the emails and be like, you don't understand, like this tweet that you just posted got us 5 new customers that walked into our door this month. And that made us a lot more money so that we could pay our bills. Like beautiful stories like that. And it really felt like, wow, this work that I'm doing is having an impact on someone's livelihood, which was incredible. And I think as I continued on in my career, continued working at agencies and started working for these brands, what I realized very quickly was like, okay, I'm doing this work as like a person who is very knowledgeable about what social media marketing is, but I'm also having to do a lot of education on like the capacity of the work, because what would happen is that I would get into these roles where it was like I was either the only social media person, or if I did have support, it was like very temporary or only a small amount of support. So it was like, you know, I think social media marketers know the lengths at which this work kind of involves. But I think over time, I just got really tired, because I was like, I can't keep being in these roles where it's just me and I'm expected to like run a whole social media department. Like it makes no sense. But I also didn't really, especially earlier on in my career, I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to speak up for myself and be like, hey, I can't be the singular, you know, person to build like all 5 of our brands on social media, you know? And I think as I continued on in my career, it just seemed like the work was getting harder and harder, to be honest. And I was just getting more and more tired, but I was afraid, because I was like, this is what I know. I was like, for like earlier on, I used to like tell people how passionate I was about social media. But like, as I continued up, like the upward progression of my career, that passion slowly started dwindling. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this because it's what I know how to do. This is like what I can easily get paid for, but it wasn't necessarily making me happy. And I think I kept going to like different jobs thinking, okay, maybe this will be better because this will be different, or maybe this will be different because this will be better. And that wasn't happening. So ironically enough, I got quote unquote dream job when I started like working at this huge airline in Atlanta. We know what it is. And, and it was so funny because everyone was like, are you kidding me? You got that job? Like not in like the Jayde got the job, so that shocking way, but it was like, it's a hard company to get a job at. Like the application process is rigorous.
They got a long questionnaire. You know how we fill out them questionnaires, people.
So I finally ended up in this role, and it was just like, wow, Jayde, like did it. Like you've reached the climax of your career. And then I got in it, and it was great working on. It was the first time I'd been in an environment where, you know, I had multiple people doing social, so it wasn't just me. But even in that regard, I was just like, okay, this isn't really fulfilling because it like something isn't clicking. So I left that gig and then finally got this job that I thought was the job. I was like, okay, it's not like a big corporate machine, which I love. I get to be like my rebellious, like creative self, say and do what I want, which is amazing, but it still wasn't serving me. And that's when I knew. I was like, yeah, girl, you gotta stop this, because you keep like, no matter how many jobs you get, like this is not going to make any difference. Like you got to stop doing social. So that was like the epiphany that I had, and I was like, yeah, it's done. It's time to wrap this up.
yeah. And I smile for that, because I'm vindicated, because I too have, you know, left corporate America last year, and thank you. And I bet on myself, because it's like, how long? When is the date for you to start? Because for me, I think I always knew. But I think that's what makes it beautiful to hear your story. And I think what's even dope about it is that with all the experience, with all the things, that was you who was there and learning all those things. And now that you are on your own, it's like it's happening when it's supposed to, because you aren't starting this having to now learn how to do a thing.
Yeah.
Now you're just applying it to you. You're just, Instead of it being like, okay, this company or that company, this is what the objectives are. Okay, no, it's me. What are my objectives? What is my brand objectives? What am I trying to get through? What value am I bringing to this space? Fuck everybody else. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the most inspirational part of it all, because it's kind of like getting everything that you wanted and not being enough. It's such a hell of a moment. But I think I might have said this to you on our pre-interview, is like, I believe what it is for me, and I think I've seen it a lot since the pandemic, a lot of people pivoting, is that it's a certain element that the pandemic kind of gave people to put them in a space to finally start questioning what they're doing with their time. Absolutely. It could be, the one of the most morbid of examples being almost all this death and, and illness being one thing to make you really consider and have this existential question to yourself and your life and the time that you're spending. But also, for a lot of people, it was being at home. Yeah. Being at home so much, having them to being in their comfort zone and not having all these other, sensational things happen around them being in a work environment and having a code switch, them having to go through commuting and through traffic or whatever it is, them just being in their comfort zone, being able to actually ask themselves, are you comfortable with all that you're doing right now? And I think the closer we got to us being ourselves and just truly who we are, not just the job, I think it made a lot of people assess, like, is this worth my time anymore? And I'm just glad you did it. I really am. Because it's funny because I actually had some of that product that you, one of the companies that you used to work for the first time. And I was like, let me write this down. I'm gonna have to hit them up because it's good. This good as hell. I was having that bottle like I will. This is tasty. You feel me? But well, I'll talk about that when they want to talk to me. But no, I think it's a beautiful thing that you made that choice, and I think I'm now, and I bet you probably are becoming in your circle of friends that person who, I've been thinking about making that leap too, and like, tell me how you did it, and what did you do, and how did you prepare your mind, your heart, and your body, and your spirit for this change? Because I quickly became that to my immediate personal community of like, hey, I don't like my job. How did you get the confidence to do this? And it took time. It was not nothing that happened overnight for me. So I applaud you for making that jump, making that leap, and choosing you over everything, I
think the interesting thing about that is I don't think in the process of me making this decision, I didn't think it was really that radical. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until people started approaching me and they were like, hey, I read your story. Almost like when I wrote that, it was honestly like a blog to me. It was just like, oh, this is an update on my personal life. But it was like the messages I received, they were like, Jayde, your story. And I was just like, whoa, like this got really intense. Yeah. But it definitely showed, the sentiment that a lot of people have been feeling, like, there has to be more than just this like career that has been defined for us. Like the nature of what your career can shift.
Yeah, that's so true. But I feel everything that you did. I feel everything that you did and everything that you're doing. Because it's a real dope. It's real dope, and you are already good at what you do. So it's kind of like hard to even feel like this is a unnecessary or surprising pivot. It's like, what proof do you need to like not be confident in yourself? You know what I'm saying? And I think that was, but from I think it's easier saying that from the outside looking in for sure, because definitely my friends had to be the ones to remind me who the hell I was. To be able to be like, you know what, you're right, I should just do this. Because I definitely was like, but I don't know what if I,
creeps in.
Man. Because
the support system is incredible.
It truly was. And I kept saying that. I was like, I have everybody supporting me. Every time I tell people this is what I'm thinking about doing, I'm like, I've commenced my exit strategy, so on and so forth. Nobody was like, no, then. Not you. Nobody hit me with that. It was genuinely only me who was like, Like, are you sure?
Sure.
And I had to get over that. And I think it was the universe made it happen and made so many things come my way. And even just, even my sister, like, shout out to my sister Kenya, who basically did the same thing at the same time. Just from me telling her what I want to do, she was like, damn shit, I'm going to do it with you. I'm like, oh, sis, I ain't. But I mean, if you feeling it. But she's because she did that, she was able to start her own, makeup business and just being an MUA in our local small town. And she got that entrepreneurial bug, but she's always been a go-getter. She's always been a person who can hustle and work and figure things out. So I wasn't surprised. And I've always told her that. I was like, sis, you've always had you've never told me a bad idea ever in my days, especially when it was about making money. She's never had a bad idea about making money. It was always a very thoughtful idea for a business. It was never like, and it's always based on things that she's seeing. Unlike it just being like, you know what people don't got? People need a machine to help you take off your socks. Like, it's like, no. You know what I'm saying? My sister would be like, you know what we don't have in this town? Or you know what I noticed about this? Or I had this conversation. She would have a solution to something. And so I love all this. I love all this. I love the entrepreneurial vibes. And speaking of entrepreneurial vibes, weed for Black women.
Yeah, that's my baby.
Weed for Black women. That's definitely so. You like I told you it was good with the whisk, which you might need to write down to make sure that might be your IP, and they need to to get your coins. Make sure they know whisk cupcake companies in this motherfucker. But Weed for Black women is is not only an overall brand and company and initiative that you started with your colleague. Can you tell me your friend and colleague's name who's doing this with you?
Megan.
Say that again.
Bemi Migan.
Emmy Migan?
Bemi
Demi?
Migan.
Oh, shout out to Demi. If you're listening, shout out to you.
Like GB, Bemi.
Bemi.
Yes.
Bemi. Shout out to Bemi if you're listening. But tell us more about what exactly is Weed for Black women.
Yeah. So Weed for Black women is a community media and culture hub where we celebrate Black women that love weed. It's very on the nose in the name.
I love it.
because we want it to be. But this was actually the vision of my partner, Bemi Migan. She and I worked in the cannabis industry together for a couple of years, and we were able to continue our friendship and our nature as colleagues after I left that company. And I remember she just came to me one day and she was like, Jayde, I have this idea. You and I are Black women and we both love weed. And I was like, yeah, girl, we do. And she was like, I know we know other Black women that love weed, but like they don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about it openly because there's a stigma around cannabis use. Mm-hmm. And she told me that she just kind of wanted to build this like community, this hub where Black women can like celebrate our love for weed openly and talk about it unapologetically, because there are so many people, like there's already a very large cannabis community that sometimes if you're like not familiar with it, it can like seem like it's non-existent. But even within the cannabis community and in the cannabis industry as a whole, Black women aren't necessarily represented. It's like oftentimes these companies, these dispensaries are largely white owned and male owned. So Black women were just like literally at the bottom when it comes to this community. And
white men are scared of Black women though. We back to the Kentanji point. So yeah, that's a fact. At least fear is one thing that I think white men feel about Black women, but I digress.
Absolutely. And I think in that, you know, with us, we have this unique perspective because we did work in the industry and we both between us have like 20 years of marketing experience. So coming out of that, I think like when she approached me with this idea, I was like, hell yeah, bitch, let's do this. Like it made so much sense. And together we've just been growing this brand. We launched in, I want to say mid-February. So on Valentine's Day with our campaign for the love of weed. And we literally just got a whole bunch of Black women to get on camera saying I'm a Black woman and I love weed. And it was incredibly powerful. So, you know, we're continuing to grow and we're excited for what's to come for us in the future.
I think it's going to be amazing. And you know, it's always interesting to be, you know, some of the first to kind of notice the gaps in a space. but it's necessary too. I think I always love to applaud not only Black women, but just Black people in general for their ingenuity and understanding that there's a brighter side to the holding back that so much society has done to us. Because we already had endless possibilities, but now it's so much low-hanging fruit that we still have to grab, that we can to get out the way to where we can go to. And that being really what it is, really what our true scope of how much we can create for ourselves. I think about that all the time when it comes to particular initiatives. I listen to the Read, and they always are talking about different, quotable like Black excellence moments, and talk about the first to ever do all these things, because we still have first. We still have first in so many things. We still have yet to truly check every single box. Yeah. And that says so much about about just our existence, and about how much we can still create for ourselves, and how much we really got to take care of us more than anything too. But I love that. Is there something that you learned about, from working in dispensaries or just being a person who loves weed? Is there any particular facts that you learned about weed that kind of surprised you? Because I know for me, I have one. But I want to know if it's anything that you came across in your years of being a person who partakes, but also a person who has seen it from a business perspective as well. Is there anything that surprised you once you kind of start to learn more?
Well, one, I think what shook me, because I started consuming cannabis when I was in college, which I feel like is the case for a lot of people. But I think one of the things I struggled with is my friends and people that would have weed, it would always be like these blunts. And they were really harsh on me. Like, I didn't really enjoy smoking. So it wasn't until I got into the cannabis industry and started learning more about products and how they were made that I was like, oh, there's more than one way that you can consume cannabis, which was incredible to me, because obviously most people who are not familiar, they see cannabis and they're like, oh, so you smoke. And I'm like, well, not necessarily. Like, edibles are actually my, consumption method of choice. But sometimes I want to take a tincture, or sometimes I want to, use a infused lotion, or infused, I have this infused agave that I like to put in my tea in the morning. That's, and it's just a nice way to level set the day.
I like that. I might need to get me some of that. Oh, that sounds good.
It's Black owned. It's called Unoya.
Unoya? I'm gonna write that down right now. They're gonna get an order. They're gonna get an order confirmation from me.
I love it. But yeah, I think that was one of the first things that was very much a wow moment for me. And then two, working in the industry is how fucking rich the cannabis industry is. I've never seen so much money in an industry like that for it to be a regulated good by the government. I was just like, wow, the cannabis people are making coin. And I tell this story often. I won't say too much just because it involves someone's personal life, but I remember working in the industry, and one of our executives, they were having a housewarming party, and they're not that much older than me. So I'm just thinking everyone in this company, because we are also working at a cannabis startup, is making similar amounts of money. And I remember asking one of my colleagues, I was like, they invited us to their housewarming. And I was like, how is he going to fit everyone in his apartment? And then he looked at me, he was like, Jayde, they're rich. And I was like, what do you mean? And then I remember we were all pulling up to this side of Atlanta that I've never been to. I was like, where is this? And then just walking up this huge hill. And I was like, oh, they rich.
Yeah.
It was amazing to me, because I've never seen that type of wealth before.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know that you could become wealthy from working in the cannabis. So that was very alarming to me, to say the least.
That's real. That's so real. That's so real. I love that, though. I love that, it has the propensity to do that. I definitely want, certainly want equity to be a big part. And that's why what you two are doing is such a powerful part of it, because it's about truly chronicalizing how this equity is honestly starting to grow and happen for people.
Absolutely.
Because people are finding out so much. There's a few things that I learned. Honestly, when I remember when I was Ubering, I picked up a group of doctors. And it was right around the time that Canada and Michigan legalized weed. And I told them, I was like, somebody should just put a dispensary right on the border. You know what I'm saying? That just make it a vibe, you know? And they was like, that would be a great idea. And then the other one told me about a story how he got kicked out of Canada. And I was like, okay, that's great. But they told me about how like federal legalization is would be so wonderful and lucrative if they had let it happen, because he was like, we can only research to a certain degree. He was like, doctors we can only do so much research and testing of these particular products. He was like, what we know of weed and what weed does it's not even, we'll only scratch the surface. Like we really haven't even been able to like push these things to the limit of where we can, because they're not it's not a federally, regulated thing. And I was like, oh my God. And it made me, it just blew my mind, because I already was learning more and more about all the various ways you can make things. I feel like, just a year or two ago, I found out about the magic butter machine, how you could just infuse everything. And I would find out about, I went to Arizona last year for my birthday, and the dispensary I went to in Arizona, because we was in Flagstaff. So we were like, that's basically the highest elevation in Arizona, and went to a dispensary locally in Flagstaff, and they was like, hey, y'all just just letting y'all know y'all don't got to do too much out here. You might, if I don't know what type of smokers y'all are, but you don't trust us. You do not got to do that much. And they were right. They were so right. We were literally probably smoking more before the end, just because we knew we couldn't carry it with us. Because it was just like, we really bought all this weed and barely did anything with it, because we did not need that much. We just did not need that much. We was high as hell, literally and figuratively. And it's just beautiful. I love the energy. I love the vibe. And I think it has a transcendental aspect to it. Us connecting with nature, us being able to utilize things that grow from the earth to our overall wellness. I'm loving this as a movement as a whole, not even just when it comes to marijuana and cannabis, but just herbs in general, Yeah.
Yes.
Finding out that there's a combination of things you can smoke or smudge to change things for yourself, I think are necessary things for us, and more things we need to tap into, because they're way more, there's some ancestral aspects to it, and there's just cultural aspects that it's like we don't even be doing what we need to do, you know what I'm saying, to like make our lives a little bit better. And I like my friend who one of my best friends who like always preferred to drink over smoking, told me about how he wants to drink less. And I remember like I feel like I gave him something. He was just like, damn, I ain't wanting to drink all day. I might need to start smoking. He was, I don't even care to drink right now. I was like, maybe.
And that's a funny thing too, because, oftentimes when I'm in social settings, that's typically the circumstance, because I'm not a drinker. So like, everyone will be like, Jay, do you want a glass of wine? I'd be like, no, I'm good. I have my little edible. Like, I'm good. Like, that is my glass of wine. But like you were saying, just like herbal medicine and the plant has been used like in indigenous and African communities for like centuries. So it's just like a return to our roots, literally.
Yeah. Get into it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Get your weed going. Highly big believer of it. Big believer of it. And being here in Chicago, Lily went to a dispensary just the other day here. It's easier. It creates, and just seeing all the statistics around, like how it does actually affect, crime rate and all these various things. It's like, it's a no-brainer. I know y'all getting hella tax money out of people from this stuff. I bet y'all getting a whole lot more relaxed individuals that's just out here in the streets. You know what I'm saying? I bet people are a little bit more calm, because they know it was like, man, I can't wait to get home. I got a joint waiting on me, so I'm gonna just, because I want to get home to it. So I ain't gonna wild out. I can imagine it probably motivating people to just get through the day, But no, before I let you go, one thing that I like to do is send it on. And my send it on portion, I don't know if you can hear this nice smooth instrumental.
I can.
Great. Because I like to set the tone, set the mood of it, But no, so my send it on, and you kind of touched on it, but I definitely want you to give people some tangible approaches to social media. But I want to say, like, what is the best ways that you believe a person can minimize their social media anxiety? Because I think there's enough about, I feel like there's so many things about how to be good at it. But I think the adverse and the symptom or the side effect to being on social media so much is that we do so much to ourselves internally and our just overall esteem. So please let people know, how would you minimize those anxieties around social media?
The priority, I would say, is using social media more intentionally. I think a big part of that is going to be cleaning up your social media feed. And I say that very specifically because I'm a big believer that, like, as we're scrolling, we're consuming so much content that sometimes we don't even know what we're actually looking at. And you don't know what type of like messages that you're getting seeping to your brain subliminally. So it's like, you want to make sure that you're following accounts who have content that like serves what you're trying to accomplish in life. It should feed your spirit, whether that's through like comedy and it's bringing you joy, or if it's something that's inspiring you or helping you learn more. Like, you have to make sure that the content on your feed is serving a purpose for your life. Because it's just, if you're following random accounts just because it's like, oh, this is what I want to be, or this is what I do, and it's not necessarily healthy for you, that's not going to show up for you. It's not going to help you show up for yourself in your everyday life. So that's one thing, using social media more intentionally. And then also taking the breaks. Like, it's not good for our eyes physically to be on social media that much. But also just making sure that we do take that time to like go outside and appreciate nature, because you can get very caught up when you're on the feeds all day. So social media use more intentionally and going outside more.
Yeah, go get some fresh air. Go get some vitamin D. Yes. We need that. We need that. I appreciate you so much, Jayde. I really do, for not only the person that you are and the example that you are of a content creator, just doing it and seeming like you're having a good time doing it. We need that. We need that. You know what I'm saying? And because I think people do stress themselves out trying to keep up with the Joneses, and I do believe that it's better on this side of things where you're not stressing and you just creating. But no, tell everyone and everybody who's listening or watching how they can support you, follow you, get into you, all the different things. Please let them know.
Yeah. Thank you. So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jayde Powell. I spell Jade with a Y, so Jayde Powell, Powell. And then my website, jaydeipowell.com, where people can hire me to create content.
Hey. I heard that. No, and you can see all those links right in the description of this episode as well. Make sure that if you don't know, you should know. You can follow me everywhere at Kings_Memoirs. Follow the podcast at Simply King Pod on IG, as well as go and like and comment and give responses on the Facebook page. And also my business page on Instagram as well at Life is King, for all of your digital marketing and creative production needs. You feel me? You trying to make something? Come call me. Let's create together. And also new addition, and because this just in, I got to make sure I put this in my Rolodex of things to say and promote for myself, is make sure that you subscribe to the Patreon. It's Rodney Perry and also known as King on Patreon, where you have 3 tiers to subscribe to. A lot of dope things, a lot of cool content. I'm unraveling more and more and more week to week to week. So get into it. So much BTS, so much exclusive content, but overall we just building and evolving around there. So come on and join the growing place. You feel me? If you also make sure that you like, rate, and subscribe. This has been the Soulfully Conscious Podcast for Humans, Simply Being Humans. I've been Rodney Perry, also known as King. This has been the incomparable Jayde Powell. And this has been Simply King. Peace.